Wall Street notches a fourth straight day of gains. Investors bet on the Fed nearing the end of its rate hike cycle as US second quarter GDP growth is revised lower. Asian markets open mixed despite a strong handover from Wall Street. The gift Nifty is also implying a higher start for the Indian market. Brent crude hits $86 a barrel as data indicates tighter supplies in the US. Softer than expected private jobs data and a downward revision to US GDP also fuels optimism that the Fed could pause rate hikes. Gold, meanwhile, rises to its highest level in about a month on softer economic data. A CNBC TV18 poll sees India's first quarter GDP growth come in at 7.9% versus 13.1% a year ago. A strong showing is expected from agriculture, construction and hospitality, while the sequential degrowth is likely to be sharper than seen in pre-COVID levels. HP, Dell, Acer, Lenovo and Asus among the 32 applicants for the IT hardware PLI scheme. Apple is a notable miss. Minister Ashwini Vaishnav tells CNBC TV18 that the scheme is expected to lead to a value addition of 35 to 48%, can potentially go up to 75 when made in India semiconductors are used. A two-day meeting of leaders of the opposition grouping India starts in Mumbai today. Seat sharing, election strategy and logo unveiling is likely on the agenda. Good morning in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Sonal Bhutra. You're watching Power Breakfast. Those were the top headlines and we do have a handful of them. But of course, the big focus continues to remain on the global markets and the fact that it is monthly expiry as well for our own markets. So first up, as always, let's take a look at what the Asian markets are doing. Well, they are largely mixed as we speak. And we have seen China's factory activity contract for the fifth straight month. So that is not looking good for Chinese markets. That continues to be a pain point. But apart from that, if you look at something like a Seng, that one is higher in trade. So that's higher by 0.6% actually. Taiwanese index is down 0.4%. So it's a mixed picture for the Asian markets. We have the Nikkei, which is up around 0.5%. But the likes of Kospi, Shanghai, Taiwanese index, all of them are lower in trade. In fact, if we look at the data as well, we've seen the China macro data, which has come by. The August manufacturing PMI has come in at 49.7 versus an estimate at 49.2, and August composite PMI has come in at 51.3, which if we talk about the non-manufacturing PMI as well, it has come in at 51 versus an estimate of 51.2, but the contraction continues to remain a worry. Gift Nifty, that will come up for you on the screen. That one is indicating the start for our own markets could be in the green. It's an implied open right now. However, yesterday we did see a fall from the highs in last half an hour of trade. So today as well, because of the expiry, that will be key to track. But let's talk about the U.S. markets. Wall Street indices notched a four-day winning streak. The tech-heavy Nasdaq led gains, closing over 75 points higher. Dow Jones gained about 38 points, while the S&P 500 closed over 17 points higher. The street reacted to a raft of economic data, including the U.S. GDP and private payrolls. Investors will now look ahead to the monthly jobs report due on Friday. CNBC's Julia Booston gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets were up across the board today as investors pored over new jobs data, and annual GDP was revised downward from previous forecasts. The Dow is up 38 points, the S&P 500 on a four-day winning streak closing up 17, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq gained 76. According to ADP, job creation in August slowed more than expected, a sign that the economy might be starting to slow under pressure from high interest rates. Private employers added 177,000 jobs in August, well below July's revised total of 371,000. ADP's chief economist said that the U.S. is on the same pace of job creation as it was before the pandemic. American Airlines flight attendants voted to authorize union leaders to call a strike. The union said that more than 99% of members voted in support of a strike, a move that would put pressure on the carrier while the parties negotiate pay raises. The vote does not mean a walkout is likely. U.S. law makes it difficult for airline unions to legally strike. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Okay, all right. That's all about the U.S. market action. But let's also listen to some important opinion on the state of the U.S. economy and what latest data says about the labor market. Hear out what Aditya Bhavya of Bank of America and Amy Silverman of RBC Capital Markets had to say.
The two big readings this week, I think, will be number one by far, the jobs report. We're looking for 175,000 on non-farm payrolls. 3.5% unemployment rate, so that's flat, and 0.3% wage inflation. In terms of jobs, we think there are risks to the downside given the shutdown of yellow that led to about 30,000 in job losses. So I think the risks are that we get a slightly softer number, which would be welcome for the Fed, right? And then on Thursday we get PCE inflation. We're looking for a 0.3 on the core. That's a little bit above consensus, so that could be a little bit more concerning from the Fed's perspective.
You know, the options market has been remarkably low and remarkably sanguine. I think that part of this is just due to seasonality. Obviously, the numbers coming this week are critical, and also just depends on how they fuel into what happens a few weeks from now. I will point to one thing, which is, you know, look, in the options market, we've had a lot of exuberant sentiment, both on the index level as well as on specific mega cap tech stocks. And obviously those could be harmed, you know, depending on what the rate story is from here. And what I will tell you is that exuberance, that demand for those call options has been waning. So, you know, I would point to kind of the lack of positive sentiment that we saw a few months ago heading into these numbers, but not necessarily yet the full rising of bearish sentiment.
Okay, that is some expert opinion coming in, but it's time to get to the final update in our global market wrap this morning. Mixed cues from Europe following inflation reports from Germany and Spain. The French CAC closes 9 points lower, the German DAX loses about 39 points, and the British FTSE ended with a 9-point gain. Inflation in Germany, Europe's largest economy, increased by 6.4%, slightly higher than expectations. It was marginally lower than July's print of 6.5%. Headline inflation in Spain rose for the second consecutive month to 2.6% in August versus 2.3% in July, largely led by higher fuel prices. Shares of European companies with exposure to Gabon fell 6 to 16% as a military coup in the Central African country raised concerns over operations. All right, with that, we'll move on. And since that's the global market action, we'll try to understand how will these overnight cues impact our own markets. We have a research team joining in with what the trade setup looks like, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and the action from the F&O space as well. Hey guys, a very good morning to all of you. Well, Rima, it's a crucial trading day. What is the market setup looking like today?
Well, you know, our own markets have been underperforming a bit, the Asian markets. Yesterday, we had a positive handover from the global markets. We started off strong, but we faced resistance around the 20-day moving average, 19,450. And after that, profit booking set in and markets retraced to close absolutely flat. So the Indian markets have been in a bit of consolidation zone. They have been in a consolidation zone through the August series, but, you know, there was a bit of a downward bias to the way trades have been playing out. The key markers, the levels have been quite firm for this series. Over the last few days, it's the 50-day moving average, which is held out as a resistance level, 19,450. But the series highs is closer to 19,650. On the way down, it will be support levels closer to 19,230, which is the series low, or 19,250, from where we bounced multiple times. It's also a very crucial session. August series expiries today. Post markets close, you've got the core sector and the fiscal deficit data coming out at 5 p.m. The Q1 GDP print, where economists are expecting a 7.9% growth, is expected at 5:30 p.m. Yesterday, we had DIIs buying 1,323 crore in the cash market, while the FIIs sold 495 crore. But again, the flows of late have been skewed by a lot of block deals. And yesterday, we had the Zomato block deal, where SoftBank sold a little more than 1%. We've spoken about the global markets. U.S. markets closed with minus strength. Back to you.
Okay, all right. So important trading day since it's the monthly expiry as well. But a lot of stocks that'll be on our radar. Surbi has that list. Hey, Surbi, morning.
Good morning, Sonal. The first one on my list is Sula Vineyards. Sources say that Whirlwind West Asia is looking to sell up to nearly 13% stake in the company. The block size may be close to 540 crores. RVNL, the company has emerged as the lowest bidder for a project worth 250 6 crores, and this is from Maharashtra Metro Rail Corporation. BHEL, the company has won an order to set up a supercritical thermal power project, and this order is from NTPC. Dreamfolks will also be on our radar. The company has collaborated with a leading visa service provider to offer premium lounges and doorstep visa services. And lastly, Ajanta Pharma, the company receives the final approval from US FDA for Topiramate capsule that yeah.
All right, no worries. That is Ajanta Pharma, and those names are difficult to pronounce. Pharmaceutical names, of course. But thank you, Surbhi, for all those stocks that will be on our radar as well. But let's talk about the F&O space. Manglam is joining us with all the updates. Hey, Manglam.
Good morning. So, it is the August series expiry, and chances are after 4 series of gains, we will probably see a minor cut in this series itself. The Nifty is down about 312 points in the August series so far. What's been happening over the last few trading sessions is that the market's moving higher, opening higher, and from congestion zones, it's seeing a bit of a sell-off. But importantly, structurally, it's good largely because lows are protected and highs are moving higher. So the last 3 trading sessions, the highs have moved mildly higher, but there is some technical resistance between 19,400 and 19,500 as we speak. The FIIs, they added a few more shorts than long contracts, as a result of which their long short exposure stands at 46.54% on the day of expiry. The important data point, however, was the big selling we saw in index options, 15,100 crore worth sell-off. And this, largely because we saw a 100-point sell-off from the highs in yesterday's trading session. So that made FIIs go ahead and write more calls than puts. How many more calls? Nearly 20 calls per put written. 2.05 lakh calls which were written yesterday versus about 10,000 puts. Where were those calls written? 19,450 and 19,400. So if you look at it, the 19,450 call has around 9-10 rupees of premium, and the 19,400 call has about 20 rupees in terms of a premium. On the way down, we've seen some writing at the 19,350 put as well for a premium of 42 rupees. So what does this basically mean? That call writers are positioning themselves for congestion between 19,420 and 19,460 on the Nifty, whereas support is around that 19,300 mark itself. Between 19,420 and 19,460 are also the 50-day moving average and the 20-day moving average of the Nifty, making it doubly more congestive on the way up. The Nifty Bank, yesterday's high was 44,780, which was close to the 50-day moving average, and it eventually closed below the 20-day moving average of 44,400. So that's something we'll be watching out for too. In terms of stocks, on the last day of the series, BHEL has entered F&O ban, but a bunch of stocks have exited F&O ban as well. So that's something we'll be watching out for.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys for joining us and prepping us up for this trading day ahead. Moving on, India's first quarter GDP numbers are also set to be released later this evening. Growth is expected to slow to 7.1% from 13.1% GDP growth recorded in the same quarter last year. The agriculture sector is expected to put up a good show, while good growth is also seen from the hospitality and construction segments. So, of course, we'll get you all the reviews as well when these numbers actually hit the exchanges and are reported on the government's website. All right, with that, time for a short break now. When we return, we get you excerpts from our conversation with IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw on the IT hardware PLI and more. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast. Well, IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said the PLI scheme for IT hardware has received 32 applications. Laptop makers like HP, Dell, Acer, Lenovo and Asus are among the applicants. Apple, however, is a notable miss. Speaking to CNBC TV18's Ashwin Kumar, IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said the scheme is expected to lead to a value addition of 35 to 48% and may even go up to 75% when India begins to manufacture semiconductors.
It's really a very overwhelming response, excellent response. Practically every large PC manufacturer, every large server manufacturer, every large laptop manufacturer is part of this application process now. And I've met all of them. They are very enthusiastic. Most of them have already tied up their plans, whether they are going to manufacture on their own or with some partner. Everybody has tied up the plan. They didn't have any concern. They are very happy with the localization. We are likely to see 35% to 48% value addition in this. 35 to 48% from the discussions we have had with the industry participants. And as semiconductor manufacturing happens, which is likely to roll out in the coming few months, we will see that many of the semiconductors which are manufactured in India will be used in these PCs, laptops and servers. So it's a very good ecosystem which is getting developed.
Are we also expected to see exports soon from this?
Oh yes, significantly.
Okay, all right. Let's get you some more interactions now. Moving on, Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri spoke to CNBC TV18 and said that he would back a reduction in fuel prices if non-BJP states brought down value-added taxes. He also spoke about how all imports from Russia could come down further. Listen in.
BJP central government and states reduced their excise on two occasions, November 21 and May 2022. All the BJP states reduced their VAT. So I think it stands to reason that the non-BJP states should now bring down their VAT. They've been increasing it. Punjab increased it. Once the non-BJP states reduce their non-VAT, I will become an advocate for further reduction, provided the non-BJP states do their bidding job first. And then we will step in to see what more can be done if the results are good. There's no question of any deliberate decision by us to import more or less from a particular source. The government has nothing to do with this. The importation is being done by the private sector and the public sector companies, and they do it in a very transparent way. What they do is they float a tender and ask for prices for delivery at our port. And whoever has the lowest price, they import from that. Insofar as Russia is concerned, you're absolutely right. The month you named, there was a decline of 5.7% in this thing. But you know, this is a dynamic situation. I mean, when the military action took place from Russia to Ukraine, I'm talking about February of 2022, at that point of time, we were importing hardly any oil from Russia. I think it was 0.2%. In the first 2 months after that, there was a sudden increase in imports from Russia. Why? It's a price sensitivity issue. You have a situation where earlier 5 million barrels of oil that we consume, about 4 or 5 sources supplied 800,000 barrels a day or roughly thereabouts. Then what happened is the imports from one particular source went up, came down. Today you have a situation where from two of our sources, Russia down 5.7%, may come down further if what you say is correct. Saudi Arabia, which is a major supplier, there's a reduction. But there is a reason for that reduction. The reason is that Saudi Arabia charges something called an Asian premium, which is for countries in Asia to look at the differential between prices to Europe. Now, so obviously, if the importer, whoever it is, it's private sector, Reliance or Indian Oil or whoever it is in the public sector, these are global companies. One of them is the world's 7th largest company. The others are very big international company. They will buy the cheapest.
Okay, that's the word coming in from the oil minister on further price cuts and also on imports from Russia. But let's now move on and focus to another important story. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that Subhash Chandra, founder of the SL Group, has agreed to settle outstanding debt with JC Flowers ARC. Ritu is joining us with more details on this one. Hey Ritu, good morning.
Good morning, Sonal. If you recall, as part of the 48,000 crore rupee NPA portfolio transfer from Yes Bank into JC Flowers ARC in December last year, the SL Group loans were also transferred, and therefore now they're with JC Flowers, with Yes Bank having no exposure other than the security receipts. Now, that said, the SL Group companies have agreed to enter into a settlement with JC Flowers ARC for the outstanding dues, which at a group level, for Yes Bank were at 6,500 crores, but of course were bought at a discount by JC Flowers ARC. Now, we've been given to understand that the agreement is that the SL Group companies will repay about 1,500 crore rupees of debt over a 7-month period, with the first 15% of the amount, having to be paid in the next 30 days and the remaining over a period of 6 months. Now, in proportion to the dues being repaid, JC Flowers ARC may release part of the securities, which includes collateral such as properties, real estate, shares in Z-Learn. But we've been given to understand that JC Flowers ARC will not release the 25% stake it holds in Dish TV until the entire sum is repaid, which is agreed upon. So no relief as far as Dish TV is concerned until the entire 1,500 crores is repaid. But yes, there's a settlement which has been agreed upon. And now it's a matter of executing it over the next 7 months.
Okay, all right. We'll keep coming back to you for more updates on that one, Ritu. Thank you so much for joining us with those important details. For now, we'll slip into a break. When we come back, we'll get you all the cues from the commodities market. A lot happening there. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Well, it's time to get to know all about the commodity markets. Manisha Gupta is joining us with all the updates. Hey, Manisha, good morning.
Morning, Sonal. Thank you for that. Well, whatever we lost in last 2 weeks in terms of the crude oil prices, we seem to have regained all of that in this week. So we are back at around $82 and $85 a barrel for both the crude varieties. Well, the U.S. crude stocks have declined by 10.6 million barrels. That has been supportive. Also, the U.S. rig count has declined for a 9th month in the month of August. Geopolitically as well, there is support coming in as there is a military coup now in Gabon, which is an OPEC member. So markets are looking at supply concerns from there. Also, Saudi Arabia may roll over its additional cuts of 1 million barrels per day in the month of October. And the expectations are that the Saudi also may increase the selling price to Asia to the highest that we've seen in this year. So there is a demand that we've seen continue getting stronger. Markets also are looking at the Gulf of Mexico supply facilities being disrupted because of Hurricane Idalia. So whichever way that you look, there are supports coming in. Also, the just came in China PMI data, while it has contracted for a 5th straight month in the month of August. But we are looking at numbers better than last month and better than street expectation. So that perhaps is another supportive factor.
All right. Okay. That's what's happening in the commodity market, especially on the crude front. Thank you, Manisha, for joining us. With that, we'll move on to the latest updates on the political front now. The chief opposition coalition, India, or the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance, is all set to hold its 3rd meeting in Mumbai starting today. The meeting will be attended by 63 representatives of 28 parties. As a precursor to the 2-day meet, the Maha Vikas Aghadi Alliance, comprising the Uddhav Thackeray-led Shiv Sena, UBT, NCP and the Congress, held a press conference in Mumbai yesterday. According to reports, formation of regional or state-wise groups and seat sharing ahead of state polls and Lok Sabha elections next year are most likely to be on the agenda. The India Alliance has also decided to unveil the logo of the opposition bloc on the concluding day of the meeting. Okay, this is an important political development. We'll keep getting you more details on this one. But that's all we have on Power Breakfast now. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next. Stay tuned for that.